Please rise. Court is now in session.
Love, strength, Fighting for Justice is the podcast. Fighting spell with a PA. Serving Philly in the counties and the tri-states. We can change people's minds, yeah, we don't see hate. If you ever want to question law, yeah, let's debate.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Fighting for Justice. Today's episode is all things insurance. We are going to break down to you guys what you need to know, what you should know when you're getting insurance, what you need to ask for. We have our expert here, Joshua Tabay. He is going to be answering all the questions. We are going to fire at him rapid style. We're going to show you guys a couple of videos, and we'll talk about, who we think is at fault. We'll explain what that means. So I'm just going to jump right into it. The first thing I want to say is that understand, guys, we practice in Pennsylvania, right? Every state has different laws. Now, if you are in a different state, if you're not in Pennsylvania and you get into an accident, that does not necessarily mean that we cannot help you. If you contact us, you need to let us know all the information and we will try and help you regardless of where you're from. However, what we are talking about right now, the information that Josh is going to give to you today, for the purposes of this video, we are in assumption that the information he's giving would apply to someone in the state of Pennsylvania. With that being said,
with Pennsylvania insurance.
With Pennsylvania insurance.
Right.
So with that being said, Josh, the first question I want to have you explain to our listeners is, can you explain the difference between limited tort and full tort? And is there a difference when people say limited coverage versus full coverage? Is that the same thing or are they different?
Yeah. So this is one of the most common questions I think we get. We probably, the three of us can all agree, this is something that we're asked about all the time, what the difference is when we have to explain it to a client or a potential client who calls and we determine at a later date that they had limited tort coverage on their policy. So when you buy car insurance in the state of Pennsylvania and you're a Pennsylvania resident, you have to elect what's called your torts. You have to make a tort selection on your policy. You have to select either limited tort or full tort coverage on your policy. 9 times out of 10, the insurance agent or representative is not going to really go over this stuff with you too in depth, and they're not really going to get into what this kind of stuff means. So when you are given the option, we always recommend to our clients, we can't actually recommend it strongly enough, that you select full tort coverage on your policy, not limited tort, for the main reason that full tort protects you from negligent or reckless drivers who cause you injury on the roadways. You are fully protected. You can bring a bodily injury claim against that driver's insurance, no matter how severely you are injured or what your medical bills are or anything like that. The full tort, that none of that comes into play. It's essentially, were you injured? Do you have recognizable injuries? And was it the fault of somebody else? If you have full tort, that's really all you got to worry about. You call us, we work the case up, and hopefully we're able to obtain a settlement on your behalf. If you select limited tort, things are a little bit more complicated. Now, limited tort is a few bucks cheaper a month on your premium, but again, it's just not worth it. It's not worth those savings. Because if you have limited tort, you are restricted from bringing a bodily injury claim against an at-fault or negligent driver unless unless you meet one of 3 exceptions that would convert you to full tort. One exception is if you are hit by a drunk driver and that person is actually charged with a DUI, that will convert your limited tort to full tort. The other less complicated one is if you are driving or a passenger in a commercial vehicle and you are injured as a result of someone else's negligence, your limited tort will convert to full tort. And the third and the most complicated one, but also the one we see the most, it's the most common, is if your injuries are deemed to be what the law calls serious bodily injury, which essentially means permanent injury, which, God forbid, no one wants, or an injury that is basically deemed so severe as to be, life-threatening. Again, you lose an organ, or you have. There's a million examples of situations where people have had, in my career, very, very extensive injuries that have even required surgery, where the insurance companies have denied the claim because of their limited tort status, or we've taken the case all the way to trial and lost because we couldn't prove under the law what serious bodily injury was. So again, limited tort, if you're injured in an accident, it's somebody's fault, you sort of have your work cut out for you. And we'll do everything we can to try to get that converted from limited tort to full tort, but we just can't do it in some situations. Full tort, you're covered, no worries. No, there's no you're not going to get an insurance adjuster being like, yeah, well, I mean, she had to have back surgery 6 times, but we still think it's limited tort here. I mean, this isn't a real serious injury. I mean, she only had 6 surgeries.
Let me jump in because it seems like, and the only reason I know about it is because you have, since you come over, kind of taught us a lot, and we talk about it often. And one thing, I had limited tort for a while. And the reason I had it was because I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to pay any extra money right now. I'm not getting into any accidents. Yeah. And you're like, no, that's not really the point, because the point is the tort part, right? Limited tort versus full tort. It really only says if you get in the accident, you can't sue for if you have bodily injuries. Correct. That's all it's really talking about. So if you choose that, you are actually saying, I'm not going to pay a couple dollars a month so that if I get hurt, right, I can actually sue for it. I think a lot of people misunderstand coverage versus the tort part of it. It's really not that much difference, but you could be talking about missing out on 6 figures. If you're really hurt and you really need it, it's almost not even worth having limited tort in this state.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that the sacrifice you would make for the couple of dollars is worth the coverage and the ability to collect when you're injured in a vehicle. Because just like Josh was saying, it's also rare for you to, if you had limited tort, it's rare for you to get seriously injured in a car accident. Now, it happens, right?
Right.
Not saying it doesn't happen, but, if you get rear-ended, whiplash, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Whiplash is not going to be a serious bodily injury. Right?
Never.
It's not life-changing.
Nope.
But if you have full tort, you can certainly, you have the ability to go after them for something like whiplash, the kind of common injuries you see from a normal accident.
Right. So if you have full tort and you get injured, you don't have to be seriously injured. You don't have to be debilitated or maimed in order to see some kind of coverage. But if you have full or limited tort, then you basically almost have to be really fucked up before they're.
And what people don't think about, right, is even missing work for a week, right? Because your neck really hurts, right? I mean, my wife was, T-boned. She wasn't injured, right? She didn't go to she did. I took her to the hospital, but she still had aches, pains. Her neck hurt. She didn't work, right? And if she would have had limited tort, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, but let me just so all the listeners are clear, and we're clarifying this. If you have limited tort and your injuries cause you to miss work, you can still collect wage loss, and you can also still collect, if you pay out of pocket for medical expenses,
sure,
and you can prove that, you can recover from the other driver. You can recover wage loss, and you can recover out-of-pocket medical expenses. That goes without saying. That's full tort or limited tort. But again, what we're really harping on here is if you have limited tort, that's it.
That's it.
You do not have that. You cannot get to that separate stage where you're saying, I want my medical bills covered. I want my wage loss covered. But I also want some recognition for the pain and suffering that I dealt with recovering from whatever, even if it's whiplash.
Correct.
I mean, there's pain and there's very, 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 very consistent pain and suffering that goes in with whiplash.
Absolutely.
But if you have limited tort, it ends there.
Okay, so let's break down some of the other things that happen when you're going in and you're asking for car insurance, like who pays the medical expenses. If, let's say, okay, so I get into an accident, and another thing I know people are worried about is that, man, I don't want to get into this ambulance because the ambulance costs so much money. I'd rather, drive. Who's paying for that ambulance? Is it my insurance? Is it the person that hits me insurance? What should we be asking our insurance company? And how much should we have? How much would you advise that the average person should have?
So in Pennsylvania, again, Pennsylvania is a no-fault state. So what that means is if you're in an accident, regardless if it's your fault or if you're sitting at a red light and some asshole rear ends you from behind, Your insurance company is still going to pay, is still responsible for your medical bills, not the other guys. So you have to go through, you have to open up a claim, and we do this for you, but you have to open up a claim, specifically a medical claim with your insurance company, and all the medical billing will get processed through that. So they will pay all the medical billing that comes through until you reach whatever limit you have set with your insurance company for payments. Once you hit that limit, then then it would kick over, and you'd have to start using your personal health insurance or paying out of pocket or what have you. But it's you never want to have a situation where you're saying, well, I'm not going to treat because I don't know who's going to pay, or I don't have that kind of money, or the other driver won't accept. We see this a lot. Well, the other driver won't accept responsibility. He said it was my fault, so I don't know who to go to. So even if it's your fault, right? No fault. If it's your fault, your medical expenses are going to be covered by your insurance company. Yep. So it's really important that people know that, because people are always like, well, I want to go through the other driver. The other driver should have to pay for my medical expenses, not my insurance company. I mean, I guess in a perfect world that's the case, but at Pennsylvania, it's not going to play that way.
Right.
You got it. You have to use your insurance. You have to.
Now, let me ask you in a specific scenario, what happens, same scenario, you get rear-ended, but that person doesn't have insurance. Does that change anything?
Well, again, if you get rear-ended and that person doesn't have insurance, your medical is still going to be covered because you have insurance, because you listen to this podcast and you have good insurance. So your medical is going to be covered. You don't have to worry about that. If the at-fault driver does not have any insurance, and I saw a statistic the other day, like 1 in 7 people on the roadways right now don't have insurance, which is actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
But and this leads me into our next topic. I don't know if this is where you wanted to go with this, Dave, or not, but like the other thing that you can do, the other protection, the other level of protection that you can carry on your policy is what's called you can carry underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage. So you have the option of, again, like full tort is protecting you. You have the option of paying for additional protection in the unfortunate circumstance where you get hit by a uninsured driver. You can make a claim for pain and suffering, for wage loss, for medical expenses. You can make a claim against your own insurance company for those aspects. Again, if you're injured, for those aspects of a situation.
Both? Do both, like you said, underinsured and then uninsured, right?
Right. So
clearly, there's a difference. Does that apply to both?
Yeah, it applies to both, and it's essentially the same coverage and it's the same premium that you're paying. But you can also carry underinsured, which would protect you in a situation where you're hit by a driver. Again, it's not your fault, but you're hit by a driver who is carrying the state minimum in liability. In Pennsylvania, it's $15,000. You have to carry at least $15,000 in liability coverage. So if you are rear-ended by somebody with carrying the state minimums, and again, God forbid, you have some type of serious injury, $15,000 isn't going to be enough to compensate you for if you're out of work forever, or you have a ton of medical expenses, or again, you have to, you're laid up in bed for months.
Right.
$15,000 isn't probably going to get you there. So you can then kick over to your insurance company and say, hey, I got all the money I could from the guy that did this. Now I want to go and I want to tap my own policy to basically make a second bodily injury claim. You can bring a second bodily injury claim, but it's against your insurance company.
Yeah.
You don't have to carry that coverage. It's optional in Pennsylvania, but we recommend that everyone carry at least $100,000 of excess coverage of underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage. So in the unfortunate situation where you are hit by somebody like that, you clear theirs out, then you go after yours. You've got $100K there available.
Okay, so the uninsured and underinsured, does that only cover for full tort, or can you get underinsured and uninsured for limited tort as well?
You can have it for limited tort as well.
Okay, so
but you're going to be limited tort against your own policy, right? So if you have limited tort and you get hit by somebody who has no insurance, but you do, so if you're paying limited tort, but you also decide to pay and carry UIM coverage or UM coverage.
And just so you guys know, UM coverage and UUM is what he says. That's uninsured and underinsured.
And underinsured, yeah. We don't want to talk in anagrams, but yeah. So you would, so you can still say, hey, look, this other driver doesn't have insurance. I want to tap my own policy. And again, they'll open up the claim for you, but you're limited tort, right?
So you can't, no pain and suffering,
right? Unless you meet
the exception.
One of
those exceptions.
So it makes your life harder.
Sheesh.
It could.
It does.
Well, it could.
I mean, if you get hit by if you get hit by a drunk who is also uninsured, I mean,
yeah.
But you're hoping for you're hoping to luck out in that situation,
Right?
Instead of spinning the roulette wheel, just carry the coverage that we're telling you guys.
So full tort.
Call your insurance company today, and you can switch today. It's not like a long process where they're gonna be like, well, we're going to send you out 300 forms, and you got to sign them in triplicate and get them notarized and send them. Yeah. No, you can call your insurance agent today and be like, I want full tort.
Right,
and they'll say, done.
And
we're
honestly,
switching it over. Here's your new premium is going to be X. It'll
right,
be reflected on your next bill.
And guys, he's not lying.
Do it today.
Since he started here working with us, that's what he told me. I called. I said, "What's the difference for me to switch from a limited tort over to full tort?" And it was like $5 a month.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And the amount now that I am covered is so much more that $5 is not a big deal. I understand that most people are trying to save money, and I get that right now. Money is an issue, but if you're going to have this insurance, you're going to want full tort, because if you ever need your insurance, you are going to need it to be full tort.
Yep. And the one misconception that I don't want, that's why it's important to just listen to us, right? My best friend does this for a living. We'll eventually have him on here because he can also shed all.
Yeah, I can't wait to have it.
And he knows the questions he gets asked, but he watches this religiously, and he said he loves these discussions. And it's a matter of, if you go to him and you're informed, he'll answer the question. It's not like they're trying to hide it, but most people don't even ask these questions, right? He'll say, would you like limited or full tort? And they'll say, they only ask one question. Well, how much? So once you hear the lower number, he's not going to sit there and tell you, well,
of course not.
Right? That's not his job, is to give you what you want. You're buying something.
That's also not even in his company's best interest, right? Because their best interest is to take as much money as they can, right, from the premiums and never have to pay
anything.
Right? That's how business works. You take all you can and you don't pay back. That's how you make the money. So if they're telling you, right, we're telling you that the big numbers, the reason why the attorneys want these cases is because if there are serious injuries and you get to pay for pain and suffering, those are the numbers that hit 6 figures, 7 figures sometimes, depending on those injuries. And if you are the insurance company, you don't want to pay out those. So it helps that they get to limit that tort, right? So it's better for them if you have limited tort, because unless you're basically really, really, really injured, they're never going to have to pay that 6 figures. And then even if you are, it's probably almost worth it for them to go to a jury and say, hey, this isn't serious bodily injury. And a jury may agree, and then they still don't have to wind up paying out.
Right.
So I get why they wouldn't tell you to have.
Well, the way I see it, it's just like an attorney, right? If you don't ask us, we don't know to tell you. So if you just call your insurance company and you're like, I need insurance, I need the cheapest stuff, they're going to go, okay, cool. Take your cheapest stuff and leave, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get in an accident, and I know my friend gets these calls, just like we get them, right? I got hit and I'm injured. Mm-hmm. He has the same answer we do. Okay, great. You can collect for certain, but you have limited tort. So, and he walks them through the process.
And you have to, for the insurance to activate, you've got to go through and you've got to check a box that says limited tort. I mean, they may so it's not like people, again, they're presented with the information, but they don't read it. They just check.
And that's why going into anything with more information, that's the whole point of our podcast.
And so exactly, to provide information. If you reject underinsured and uninsured, like if you say, no, I don't want that, it's too much, I don't want to protect myself anymore, you've got to check a box. But that's really, really it. And these decisions that people make can be life changing.
Yeah,
correct.
Like your decision between full tort and limited tort can ultimately affect your ability to, depending on how old you are, when you're injured, or what your injuries are, can have it's just an absolutely monumental, massive effect on your life.
Yep.
Right. And now there's so many ways that I kind of want to move on from that, because the one thing that we see is people getting into these accidents. They actually have, full tort. They actually have good claims, good insurance, good injuries that, like, okay, we can help this person. And then we run into that mind frame of like, man, but I don't want to sue. I'll just, pop this Vicodin. I'll just take this perk, deal with the pain. I'm going to go to work. And their thinking sometimes is, number one, I'm not the type to sue. Number two, like, I need to go to work. I can't miss this money right now. Can you explain the benefits of going through your insurance? And sometimes you may not have the time to take off, right? To go to the doctors, to go to the physical therapy. Why should someone go through a process that could last a year, right? Or longer, versus saying, you know what, man, I can't afford to be out of work for a month. I've got kids to feed. I've got what do you say to them?
Well, when people ask me about that, I get asked the work situation a lot. Should I go back or should I stay out? And I always tell people, like, look, that's a life decision that you and your family got to sit down and make. I can't make that for you.
Yep.
But what I tell them is, if we can make a documented showing that you missed from X date to X date, you were out recovering from your injuries under a doctor's order. That's very important. That you can't just write yourself out of work.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just say, nah, my back hurts. I'm not going. I'm
Right.
I'm going to take the next 2 weeks off. No, it doesn't work that. Like, you need a doctor to say, Joe Smith cannot work until I see him again in a week, or until I see him again in a month, whatever. Like, that's very, very, very critical. But number two, if you can demonstrate all that and you can lay that out to an insurance company, your wage loss is 100% recoverable, fully 100% recoverable, depending on the individual circumstances of the case. So if you can wait, if you're fortunate enough to be in a financial situation, or your family is, where you can wait and stay out of work and recuperate, knowing that I'm going to be able to get you 100% of your wage loss back, then that's what I tell people to do.
Yeah.
If you say, look, I can't wait. I gotta, my family needs the income, and I can't wait. Or I can't wait around for potentially, you to get me something 6 months from now. I need it now. I'm not going to argue with that person.
Sure.
Right.
Do what you got to do, man. I'm just telling you, if you go back to work, it's going to eliminate your wage loss claim, number one. And number two, it's going to demonstrate to the insurance company that you're fully recovered from your injuries, or you're recovered enough to the point where you can work. And that's going to affect any potential value of a bodily injury claim.
Yeah, not to mention
That makes sense.
you would be doing it against doctor's orders in that scenario.
Right.
If a doctor told you to stay home,
Most doctors aren't going to write that in the chart. They're not going to say, I advise Joe Smith not to work, but he did it anyway.
No, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're saying doctor's orders, so there has to be a conversation, right?
Right.
Where the doctor says to the patient, I don't think you can't work for at least 3 weeks, but then they're saying, I have to, right? So that means they're just going against medical advice, which, again, to an insurance company is going to look like, you're not that injured. Your doctor told you, you went back to work.
Or even, like, I think the other important part is not even that you're not that injured. You may be as injured as the doctor said, right? But if the doctor said take it easy and you go back to a labor job, then it's not all right. The reason why you're getting paid is because we are saying this is all that driver's fault. However, at this point, you're making it worse.
Yeah,
right?
you're going
because
against medical
you're being
advice.
told how to heal it, how to get better, and you're deciding, I need this money now, which means even whether it's true or not, the insurance company, whose job is to keep their as much money as they can, they're going to say, well, now your injury is going to linger for longer because you're doing things, and that's not our fault. That's not the driver's fault. So we're going to try and chop away at some of that money that maybe we would have had to pay because you're not doing everything you can to heal.
It just takes away leverage of your case, right? Like, if you're truly injured and a doctor's telling you to stay home, you should be following doctor's advice, right?
Exactly.
And it's easy then to go to insurance, anybody in the world, I don't care, and say, this person's injured. Doctor's notes, they're not working, right? And no one can start chipping away. Well, he went back to work after a week instead of 2 months.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the one thing I want to, and just kind of on the same thing, I've heard this a lot, and I just want to clear up the confusion, right? I've heard people say, I don't want to file a claim because my insurance is going to go up, right? I'm going to have to pay more. is there any validity to that, right? Especially if you're not at fault, okay? I want to make sure we're very clear. Not I rear-ended somebody, I'm worried about my insurance going up. Well, you might, right? But just a normal accident where you're not at fault. Is that a concern?
A normal accident where you're not in fault, and you're injured?
Yes.
So again, we'll use the scenario where you're stopped at a stoplight and somebody plows into the back of you. If you go through, you have to open a claim with your insurance company for medical expenses and for other things. So they're going to know you were in an accident. If you're injured to the point where you go after the other driver's insurance company and you make a full recovery, you go out and then you further an underinsured motorist claim with your insurance company, your rates are not supposed to go up.
Okay.
Do they figure out a way to sometimes raise them anyway? They say it's really, it's for something else, but it's really truly for the fact that you made a claim against the insurance company. Yeah. I think that happens pretty routinely.
Yeah.
But there isn't any really way to prove definitively that they're doing it solely because you filed a underinsured motorist claim with them.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not going to be able to actually, they're going to say, well, it was because she had a speeding ticket last month.
Yeah.
Or because
sure. Or you had a DUI or something.
Yeah. Or the car she bought, we
older, or you're in a different area.
Yeah.
But essentially,
they come up with a million reasons.
But also, here's what I'll say, not to cut you off. No, the one thing that I've always said, you can switch insurance companies, right? And I've heard that a lot. Like if you do feel like they're kind of raising your rates and you really don't know why, because you haven't, speeding tickets, you got hit, I tell people, well, then call someone else.
Yeah, drop
right?
them.
Like if you have a clean driving record, call the other person. Just call Geico. Save $750 today. You know what I mean? Not to be funny, but listen, if you call someone else and they're like, yeah, and it's near the rate that you used to have, well, who cares? Then switch. Right. Because they can't charge you. You're not gonna, you're not gonna be stuck in that loop.
Touche.
Yeah.
Don't let it. Really, what I'm saying is, don't. I just want people to understand. Don't let that be a deterrent.
Don't let that be a fear.
Yeah.
Right.
You might have to pay more for a month. You can switch insurance companies, right? Because you were still covered at the time of the accident by them.
Right. So they have to. If you're in an accident, you have a claim open, and you switch insurance. You can switch insurance companies.
Yeah, and that's what
during
I wanted.
the pendency of the claim.
That's what I wanted to make clear, right? Because people are.
Right.
It might take 6 months, so I have to pay more. You can leave tomorrow as long as it's continuous. You were covered at the time of your accident.
Right. So if you go to Geico,
Yep.
Geico's going to run their background,
Yep.
and they're going to see that you have a claim open with State Farm,
Yep.
and they're going to say, well, what's going on here? And they're going to call State Farm, so they're going to do their due diligence, but you may still get a better rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I just don't want that to be a deterrent. That's it. Right?
No, you're right. You're right. But with that, that brings me to my next plea. Anybody who is listening or watching right now, please do not hear this and think this is my chance to start committing insurance fraud. Okay, we get enough of those too.
Yeah, on the criminal side, absolutely.
Yes, insurance companies do not make billions of dollars annually because they just pay out stupidly. Okay, guys, they do their homework. They make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. One thing that we see a lot of are that there are people who are like, you go to sleep at night, you park your car, you wake up and somebody has plowed into your car. You realize, oh shit, I don't have the right insurance, now my car is totaled. So what do? They call and they say, hey, I need insurance, hey, blah, 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 on a Saturday. Now the accident happened on Friday, but they know they didn't have insurance until Saturday when they called. Then they try and backdate. They'll call on Saturday, try and report an accident. But at this point, there's no police reports. Like there's nothing. And we know, right? The insurance companies can send, hey, what day did you see this happen? They can ask your neighbors. They can ask the friends. What day did this happen? Guys, the fraud doesn't come because you got the money. It very rarely works, right? They almost never get the money. But once you actually make that claim knowing that, hey, I didn't have insurance on Friday, but I'm going to claim it on Saturday, that's fraud.
Yep. And
Okay?
here's one for you. Don't do this. You ready? Don't get in an accident with your car, right? Don't then submit that claim to 2 different insurance companies because you have 2 active policies at the same time. You will be caught immediately.
Sure will.
It happened. I know it happened. I was involved in a case where it happened, right? And I actually spoke to my friend about how is it possible, like, they caught it so quickly. They have, it's not like Geico and State Farm don't use databases. It's tracked to the 10th time, right? Like, it's not something that you're just smarter than the insurance companies. So I have Geico and Allstate, and both of you are going to pay me $2,000, right? You filed both claims, and literally immediately there was a letter from the Attorney General's office, right? Because it flags go up, and they're like, hey, this is either fraud or a mistake, and we're going to lean heavily towards fraud. And you will be arrested, and then you're going to call us not for a car accident, and we're going to have to deal with that. So
and it's a very easy case for them to prove.
It is almost undefensible.
It's completely, there is no defense.
Yeah, there's like never any real, like, because the truth of the matter is all you can really say is I made a mistake, but it's so blatantly obvious that you didn't make, like, did you not, because it wouldn't be a mistake like, hey, I didn't know that I had insurance on Friday, so I went and got it on Saturday, and then I mistakenly put this information in.
Told them that I got in an accident.
Like, nah, and a lot of it, I hear, they're always like, I got some bad information from a friend who told me to do this. Yeah. I didn't even get the money, so, like, what's the problem? Well, the problem is you lied on the form.
Or people, like, you know,
your intent was to get the money.
This problem. Here's what I'll say.
Didn't get it.
And
you tried to steal. Yeah. You were just bad at it.
And we've seen this. We've experienced this firsthand. This also won't work, guys. Okay, so do not get rear-ended at a light tonight. Right? Get hurt. Have limited tort. Right? And then tomorrow switch to full tort. Right? Because what usually happens is you're going to call a couple lawyers. Right? Because you got hurt. They're going to ask you, we need to see your deck page, blah, blah, blah. Do you have limited or full tort? They're going to say you have limited tort. Then we've actually had cases where people, because they have that info, they call their insurance company, they switch it, then they call, and they start telling lawyers, like, hey, I have full tort. All right? Here's what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't matter. Because eventually we're all going to figure it out together at the same time. The insurance company, everyone. And the only response that you're going to receive is you don't have a claim because you didn't have full tort at the time.
Right.
There's no tricking the system.
Right.
Which is why you need to take our advice now and switch.
Ahead
so that
of
way,
time.
if you're hit, you don't have to go through these things.
Yes. The only thing that matters is what insurance did you have at the time of the accident.
Yeah, nothing else.
After it, we don't care. If it was a minute after the accident, we don't care, right? You can't put the money on black after the wheel stops. All right? Like, you got to put your claim in. Look, I get it. Insurance is gambling, right? Nobody hopes you get into any kind of, like, accident or hurt, but we know this shit happens. People get in accidents every day because there are stupid people who drive, right? And we're getting ready to show y'all some things about, like, who's at fault.
Cell phones.
I mean, there's so many distractions. There's, like, kids, radios, makeup, like, you know, some people are drunk, drugs. Like, I mean, man, I remember the first time I was in a public defender, and this cop got on the stand and testified to how this man was like sleep at the red light, right?
Oh, that happens all the time.
And but you know, there's a difference between, like, being tired sleep and being, like, drugged, knocked out.
Passed out at the red light.
I'm only going to bring it up because it's current. Marshawn Lynch, who supposedly was sleeping while he was, like, speeding and driving.
Yeah, no, he was not asleep. He was under the influence
he was
of
passed out.
something.
Well, that's all I'm saying. He was basically catatonic driving a car.
Yeah.
With no wheels on it. So when someone like that hits you and you don't have full tort, wow, that's not true. We always got to, because if they are intoxicated, maybe. But again,
maybe we can do something.
Do you see how difficult this gets? Because we have to talk about exceptions and listen. We're trying to connect the dots for you.
Which is a reason why, if you ever watch this podcast and we're always, like, hesitant to give answers, it's because that's what good lawyers do. No good lawyer should ever really tell you, hey, here's what's going to happen. The answer in any good lawyer should always be it depends. Because every little fact matters, and the truth of the matter is that our clients never really know most of the facts. So you guys come to us and, well, I have full tort and I have $100 million worth of, and I broke my back in 3 different places, and come to find out you've had limited tort if you have insurance at all. Like, you weren't in the car. There's sometimes people are just blatantly lying. Sometimes people don't really know what we're asking. So a lot of this is meant to give you guys the information so that you can know what to ask your insurance insurance companies to make sure you're actually
You're protected.
protected.
Right.
And then you can actually know what you're talking about when you talk to a lawyer. Guys, any lawyer that's, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you nope, you red flag should be going up. No
Correct.
lawyer should just be telling you, here's what's going to blah, blah. Nope, never.
We all have to verify everything, right? Because it will be
should.
well
Because you know who is going to verify everything?
The insurance
damn
company.
insurance company.
right. So even when you tell us, it's not like we take. This is why it just goes back to what we were saying. You can't hide. You can't trick anyone, and you need the information up front, right? Because even when you tell us, I have full tort. If anybody listening thinks that we just believe you, then you don't understand how lawyers work, right? We want your documentation. We're going to look at it, and we're going to know you're lying. The insurance company already knows you're lying, right? And there's nothing we can do. And that's why we're not telling you all this so lawyers can make money, right? So there's more out there. Here's what I know. I want to make sure that you guys understand the majority of the calls we get for car accidents, right, are people with limited tort. Right? It's not like we're making it up or we want more people so we can make money. This is what we see every day. Car accidents call, we go through the process, they can't sue, right? And we have to tell them there's nothing we can do, right? And that's why it's important. This isn't just conjecture or we're trying to figure out some problems. This is what happens every day for us. So we are trying to stop it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that real quick, I think, again, a lot of the reasoning is people just don't think they're going to get in an accident.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
That is just people's mindset. Well, I'm not getting full tort. I'm never going to get in an accident.
You're not wrong. It's the same with health insurance.
But
You're
that's
invincible.
literally
Any
that's how their brain works. That's how
I mean,
people
listen,
are just wired that way, and I understand it.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
And it's almost like that's why I hate the fact that you have to make that choice.
I agree.
Because you like people, everyone just assumes it will never happen to me. It'll never happen to me. So
Yep.
I'm going to choose the cheaper of the two options.
Always.
And then bam, like the next day, guess what? Guess what happens?
It's funny because I look at it.
We
You're
see
right.
it every day, guys.
It's the
every day.
same in
Protect yourself.
every aspect. Because to me, the reason why when you broke it down, I was like, oh shit, there's a no brainer, full tort is the same thing where I'm like, oh, no brainer, like prenup, right? Listen, nobody thinks they're getting into a marriage for
get
it to
divorced.
be divorced,
Right.
right?
But it happens.
But it happens.
Yeah, it's a good
And
example.
it happens.
Accidents
at
are
a
more
rate-
frequent.
Yeah,
Yes,
it happens,
but it happens-
so frequently.
There's more divorce than people staying married, which means
Right, it
you're
happens more than
already
50%.
making a choice that doesn't logically make sense, right? If you say, I don't need one because I'm not going to get divorced, you're already going against the odds.
Right.
So you're
Just
lying.
like if you select limited tort,
Thank
you're
you.
already going against the odds. The odds are you're going to get
Get in a
an
car
accident.
accident. Absolutely.
Eventually.
And the problem,
the more you drive,
the real problem
higher
I
your
have with
odds
it
are.
too, like it truly affects poor people the most, right? Because
It does.
and it's so easy to sit here and talk about like make sure you get full tort, but
Right.
when you tell a mom that that has two kids, she's the sole breadwinner,
Right.
And you say, listen, it's $10 more a month, and she says, shit, I can't afford that. She's the type of person that will get in the accident and needs it more than anything in the world, right? Because she's injured, she's missing work, she has two kids, no one else is making money. And, if you're not seriously injured, cool. Your medical bills will be paid for, right? Your work, but, maybe you have lingering problems. You're everyone. But those are the type of people it affects the most, right?
But in that situation, I'm still going to tell the people, cut $10 somewhere else then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
Because it's
No.
that
Find the
important
money.
to have it.
Right.
It's that
Agree.
important to have it. Like, fine, then don't carry underinsured coverage.
True.
Or don't carry, or like lower your do something with your deductible, or figure out a way to save $10.
Yeah.
So you can pay, so you can switch over to full.
And
tort.
that's truly
'Cause
how
it's that-
important it is, right? It's the
really that
people who
important.
need it the most that care most about the money, and I get it, right? But it's also like you got to figure out a way. However, because this is that important, it could affect the rest
Totally
of your
agree.
life.
Totally agree. Let's
Yep.
move to the section of this that I want to call like who's at fault, who's going to pay. So I have a couple of things that I just want our listeners to know that like sometimes you may not be the driver, right? So let's talk about, let's say I'm the passenger in the car. Me and you, Josh, we both have our own cars. We both have our own insurance policies. And just for this, actually, let's say Dave is in as well. You are driving, you have your own, but all three of us have our own cars and insurance. If we get into an accident, no fault of yours, someone rear end sitting at the light, all three of us are injured, if we all sue, if we all make a claim, like whose insurance is paying what?
Well, so if we're injured, we're all going to make a claim against the other driver for bodily injury. And then we're all going to go through our own insurance companies for medical. For all your medical is going to get covered through your own insurance company. And whether you have uninsured or underinsured, that's going to come into play. But if you're all in my vehicle and we're hit and it's not our fault, then we're all going to go through my underinsured or underinsured policy first. Okay. So that's because it's the car, whose car you're in. That's the first level. That's the first layer of coverage. Then you guys could potentially open claims with your own insurance companies for underinsured motors coverage.
So
if you max out against mine,
take it a step further. I don't have insurance. Let's say
you don't own a car.
Yeah. Let's say I'm a person. Let's say I just don't have a car. I don't need one, and I don't have insurance.
Then you're full tort, and you would be able to make a claim against the other driver that hit you.
Yep.
And you're full tort. And then if you max on them, you can make a claim on my insurance for underinsured, and then you're done. Because you have no other third layer of coverage because you don't have your own vehicle.
And now one final, this is like law school.
Yeah, this is.
Does it matter if I have limited tort or full tort as a passenger?
Yes. Your insurance is going to cover. So if the three of us are in a car, I'm driving, I have full tort. You are the passenger, but you own your own car, and that car has limited tort, active limited tort coverage.
Correct.
You're going to be limited tort against the other driver.
Guys, so here's what I'll say.
Yo, the insurance company plays no games.
You need full tort.
Right.
There's another reason. You might tell yourself, I'm not going to get in an accident, but you're always in the car with your friend who drives 100 miles an hour.
Right,
Yep.
dog. Do you know how mad you would be if like everybody else had full tour and you were the one that got really messed up and like everybody else got like 10 grand, 20 grand.
Yeah, you get your
and
medical
sitting
bills
there,
paid for it.
And you're like, damn, should have spent that $5 a month.
Yep.
Like
now
dang, that would hurt.
I just had a question. I forgot. Keep going.
All right. My last what would happen is passengers or not. I'm sorry, not passengers. Pedestrians. You're walking on the street. You get hit by a car. Whose insurance pays? Like it's just that person who hit you. What if they only have like limited tort full? Does that matter at that point?
So if you're a pedestrian, you're full tort. If you're fully out of your vehicle and you're just walking over a crosswalk, you're full tort. Even if you have limited tort on your own vehicle.
So your own policy will not matter in that situation.
Right, but you're still going to go through your insurance for your medical.
Okay.
Well, okay.
We should put like a chart up for our viewers.
Damn, we really should because I'm starting to be like, man,
The layers of these scenarios
it's
are
crazy.
insane.
It's
are
crazy.
insane.
And
I didn't
this is
even.
why
I
people
thought
don't
your
wanna-
answer. I'm going to be straightforward. I thought your answer was going to be because you're not in a car. Your insurance
because-
doesn't matter.
So if you're so your medical coverage covers you in any situation where you're injured involving a car, right?
Wow. Okay.
wow.
Okay.
So like there's been situations where people have been they have their car up on a jack and they're underneath it doing work on it. The car falls on them and hurts them. You can still go through
Your car
your
insurance.
medical,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like because you were like because you were physically like touching the car when it fell on.
No, I mean another example because I'm thinking
Like
of like
that- but
Aunt
that's
Hesh.
how-
If you're in your house and a car slams into it and hurts you, would you still go through yours?
If you're standing in your house,
Yeah.
and a car
I mean, we
slams
see it
in
all
your-
the time, right?
yeah,
Let's say that car touched you.
The car touches you and you get injured.
Or how about those things we see where the people like think they're in reverse and plow through, the store.
the store.
yeah. I mean, there's you're going to get to again. There'll be layers of coverage that you have to
Because you might have
through.
homeowners, right? That comes
Right,
into play
because
too.
people there's always going to be like first priority coverage, second like you have to go through the first, you have to go, and that's the thing. And again, guys, this is why it's so important to go through attorneys for this. Like you've got to go through the right steps
Yeah.
first,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So like you can't if you try to jump a step, the insurance companies can use that against you, like and not like. If you try to jump from step 1 to step 3 and you settle with step 3, step 1 is going to say, guess what?
Yeah.
You broke the terms of our policy that's 5 billion pages long, and in the fine print it says if you don't give us prior notice of you settling with with someone else, then we don't have to pay you anything.
Got it.
Like that's legitimate. Like that's
crazy.
why it's very you have to be very careful about how you do things like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay a lawyer. I can do it all myself. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Guess what?
That's generally the answer. No,
Because
you can't.
the insurance companies they have so much money and they're so well organized. Like, you may not think it when you call your own insurance company. You may not think they're very organized, but guess what? Their claim divisions, the people that handle their bodily injury claims, they are.
Yeah.
Right.
And they think everybody in the world is out to just rip them off.
Of course.
Right? So
It's all
they're
about the
gonna
bottom line.
Right. So they're going to do everything. You have to, like JJ said, you gotta cross your T's, because I think that's why it's very important to have legal representation, because they will find where you screwed up.
And here's the thing. The other thing is that, like, you don't need a lawyer. Like, I could do this by myself. There are very, very few people who can, and I think the real reason is because the people on the other side, they have lawyers. They have very expensive lawyers. They have very good lawyers,
And they're
right?
pros. I mean,
So,
they
like,
do this what they do day in and day out.
They have lawyers on the other side. Now, the adjusters or the people that you may talk to sometimes may not be the lawyer, but the lawyers are handing down, here's what we're okay to settle with. Here's okay with what the they're the ones making sure the policies are written the way that they want to do. Like, the lawyers are touching everything on the other side. And here you are by yourself trying to fight the system.
$1 billion
And
insurance
like, they
company.
don't
Come on.
lose very frequently, guys. Like, they don't lose to people who aren't professionals.
Well,
That's
that,
why you
and their
need to
job.
have-
Their job is to nickel and dime you, right?
yeah.
Especially when you don't have a lawyer.
Sure.
That's how they make their
Like,
money.
they don't.
That's
their
how they get
goal-
raises.
Their goal
Right.
is to save money, right?
So if their boss says, here's a new claim. It's a whiplash case, rear end whiplash case. Our guy was at fault. Go. I'm going to give you $5,000 of authority to
Yeah.
settle the case.
Yeah.
So if that insurance adjuster gets on the phone with the prospective client, but someone who hasn't called us yet, and says, hey, I can settle your case right now.
Check in the mail
for $2,500.
Yep.
What do you think? And the guy says, yeah, all right, whatever. I don't
Yeah,
care.
exactly.
He just saved State Farm 25. Like, he gets a raise for that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Correct.
if he does that over 100,000 claims, think about how much money they're saving.
And
You know what I mean?
that's their
So-
goal.
and that's entirely their goal.
That's their goal.
So again,
And that's why if you don't have a lawyer, you're up against it.
Yeah.
That's it. Right? You're up against a company that's worth $1 billion. They care about money only, trying to save money.
right?
So for our last kind of
We're going to show
portion.
you a fun little video.
yeah, we're gonna show you guys a video, and we're gonna talk about who we think is at fault, right? Because as we've been talking about a lot today, it's like the person who's going to pay is the at fault driver. And one of the kind of the fun things for me about being an attorney is being able to look at something. There's not always video, but painting a story and trying to assign blame or fault.
Yep.
Sometimes it's not always as easy. So we're going to play this video. We're going to talk about who we would say is at fault. We would love for you guys to comment in there, say who's at fault, who you think is at
tell
fault.
us who you think's
If
at
you've got
fault.
some crazy videos, please send them in. We will talk about who we think is at fault.
Unless it's your case. Then
Yeah.
call us first.
Yeah.
So we can handle the case.
If it's your case, do not post anything on social
Please
media.
do not post the video on social media before you talk to a lawyer. But anyway, here's the video.
That's a topic for another podcast, by the way.
Watch this video, and then
What
we're going to
not
talk
to
about
do
it.
if you're in an accident.
Or we
All right, so there's that video.
So I'll let the we'll start with the
Let's
expert.
start with the expert. Who's at fault?
Who do
Josh?
you? I'll put it this way: let's assume both drivers get injured, right? Who do you want as the client?
Oh man, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like, this one's
Who?
the issue with this case is going to come down to did someone get I think that the guy that actually causes the contact is probably going well above, at least above or well above the posted speed limit in that area, and I think the insurance companies are going to be able to find some type of accident reconstruction specialist to say that the cause of the accident was the unsafe speeds that this guy was operating at. So in that type of a scenario, I think I want the guy who pulled out and then stopped, although you're never going to get... See, the problem with a situation like this is you're never going to get a full 100% recovery from any type of an insurance company. Like, at the best you're going to get, they're going to say, well, we think your case is worth, and I'm just throwing a number, but we think your case is worth $100. But we think your driver was pretty close to 50% at fault. So your case is worth 100. We'll give you 52 to settle it right now. And you're probably better off taking that.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, honestly, rather than putting this up in front of a jury and saying, hey, you 12 people,
Figure it out.
you guys figure it out.
Yeah.
I think in a situation like this, again, it all depends, like JJ was getting back to what JJ was saying, it all depends on what the specific situation, like it all depends on what happened immediately after this.
Yeah.
Like how serious were the injuries?
Sure.
Right.
What type of an impact did it have on these people? And then you sort of start and then you work backwards to that.
I mean, here's what I'll say. The thing that I hate about this, we assume he's speeding because of the caption. So I'm going to say that I agree. But what are you doing? You just pull out into traffic and then stop? And that's the non-lawyer part of it, right?
And again,
because I would be road rage right now if you pulled out in front of me and stopped, right? So if I wasn't injured, I would get arrested because, like, why did you stop?
And I think the guy that pulled out carries some responsibility for the crash.
Now, legally, I do agree with you.
A little bit, but here's how I see this video. All right, so there's a lot going on, and I'm just trying to put it all into like the same way we all are. So number one, sometimes the person who seems to be going out, I'm not sure if he's trying to make a left-hand turn. Right. There's a car that's actually in front of the one that's recording right now. So that probably had some of his attention and he wasn't just ready to go all out. There's a car right here, which essentially could be blocking his view to the left. So he's creeping out, trying to see who's coming. The reason why I think the person, number one or number two, the person who's in this car looks like they are recording. Right. So right off the bat, my question is, are you paying attention?
No, they have a dash cam. That's a dash cam.
That's
okay.
That's a dash cam.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like from the video, it's going pretty quick. Even take the words away. Maybe it's sped up. I don't know. But it doesn't look like he's going a regular. He looks like he's in a residential kind of area. And this video just looks like it's happening too fast. That's why I think he's speeding. And I don't know if that's true. But the other thing is that you should never be like, you should always be able to stop your car before you hit something. Yep. Is the dude in his lane? Absolutely. But the dude is in his lane
and you're going
for
too
probably
fast.
Like a solid 4 car lanes. Like he should have known that he was going to hit this car around now. And he should have been able to stop.
Here's what I'll say too.
He was going way too fast, not paying attention. You should have been able to stop before you hit this person.
Look, here's something that I think leads to he's going too fast. If you notice right at the end here, to me it seems like he slams on his brakes and fishtails. You see that? It looks like the car is almost sliding at an angle into him, which honestly, you shouldn't be going that fast in a residential area, right?
He's going too fast.
And let me ask you this, Josh, because is that important, right?
Your speed?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And why is that important, right?
Because if you're in like egregious violation of the speed limit, the insurance company is going to say that the defense is going to be like this person is at least 50% responsible for this accident.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can convince a fact finder or you can convince somebody that's going to sit in judgment of this situation that this is a coin flip or both these people were negligent, the odds of anybody getting any money out of that are almost nil.
Yeah.
So that's how you have to, I think in a situation like this, that's how I'm evaluating it.
Yeah.
Everybody, and this is why, you know what? It's Pennsylvania. You can go to your own insurance companies. There's no fight over any of that. Like you're all going to get your medical expenses covered.
Yeah.
Just walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of times what I've been seeing recently is these dash cams are so helpful to these cases because they actually show the physical impact of these crashes.
Yeah.
And you can demonstrate to an insurance adjuster or a jury or somebody, wow, this was a really violent collision and no kidding, it caused these type of drastic injuries. This is one of those situations where having the dash cam actually backfires against you.
Absolutely.
Because now it's not just your word versus theirs. Now you've got photographic evidence.
I almost feel like, a little off topic, but not really. Like it almost should be required on cars at this point. We have the technology.
I agree.
It really cuts down on this like back and forth and waste of time, right? Like if there's just a video and you're like, all right, so I'm not going to keep arguing with you. the person who hit my guy before he rear-ended him was going 170, and here's the dash cam, right? You could see the light streaking by. So like, we're not going to sit here and argue about it, right? And then if you could take that in and show a jury.
I'm always a fan of using technology when we can.
It's
in
no
court.
different than
Like,
a body cam on a
yeah,
cop, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know why that we don't just have them.
Because it's too expensive.
They're
People wouldn't be able to buy
cheap.
cars.
That camera's got to be like $5 at this point.
Well, there's people that can't.
I know.
They can't put that money out right now.
No, because you know what? If it comes down to it, get full tort then.
That's what I was about to say.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Get full tort.
Full tort's not necessarily going to help you in that situation.
No.
Like you can have the fullest tort out there, right? But if you
The
cause
fullest, that's going to be the name of this episode.
I hope it is,
The
actually.
name of this episode
Yeah.
is going to be the fullest tort.
Make sure you buy the fullest tort
Tort.
available.
Available.
We're going to get shirts that say the fullest tort on it because
Good.
that's
I
how
want-
important the message is.
I want one. But yeah, man, you can have the best protection in the history of the world. If you're out there driving like a jackass and you cause the accident, I hope you have good liability coverage, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Right? Because someone's coming after you,
Yeah.
Right.
and eventually your insurance company's going to drop your ass.
Well,
Well, guys, I think that'll wrap up for today. This will not be our last one on insurance because
Yeah, we need to
it is
do more
so
of these.
convoluted.
Yeah.
We want you guys to understand this was just kind of the first one, but those are the things we're going to do from now on. We're going to show these videos. We're going to talk about these things. Please, we can only be as good as
Yep.
you guys are going to
And we
make
have
us,
to-
support us, help us, like, comment, share.
and
do
guess
you gotta
what?
do.
Get full tort.
Yeah.
That's
Get
it,
the
guys.
fullest
And the other
tort
thing-
available.
If you remember one thing, get the fullest tort.
Next episode, check back with us too, because we'll talk about what our other than full tort, which we clearly are recommending, what our other recommended coverage limits are, like what we think you should carry and underinsured, what we think you should carry for medical. We'll even get into wage loss, property damage, stuff like that.
Sounds good.
Check back
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Till next time.
later.
Fighting for justice. Fighting for justice. Whoa.
We keep on fighting.
Wanna know the law? You know who to call.
We keep on